Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Therapy Talk where we talk about all things mental health. My name is Lloyd Fidere and I'm a psychotherapist here in New York City. I'm also the owner of a group private practice called Blue Harbor Psychotherapy. If you're new to the channel, please make sure to subscribe to my channel, hit the bell button so you get notified when I have a new video up in my channel. And also please don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, a big like. Alrighty? So in today's video, I will have the wonderful opportunity and honor of chatting with a wonderful individual who is located across the pond, across the Atlantic Ocean, in a beautiful but small country called Switzerland, the land of chocolate and cheese and snow and beautiful mountains, the Alps, and everything else wonderful. I've heard so many good things about Switzerland, and I'm looking forward to visiting this wonderful country when the pandemic is over and when all travel restrictions are lifted. So today I will have the opportunity to speak with Nikki, who was kind enough and brave enough to agree to this video and share her mental health journey. This is all part of my series called Faces of Mental Health, where I feature and talk to individuals who are been affected by a mental health issue, where they talk about how they're managing, how are they surviving, or I should say how they're thriving, and also individuals who've been affected by other people's mental health. So here's my interview with Nikki. All right, so here we are. Joining us live from Switzerland is Nicole. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, how are
How are you
you
doing?
doing?
Good, I'm
Oh,
well.
thanks.
How are you doing?
Good. Just enjoying my Saturday. It's nighttime here, but it's good to be talking back in the United States.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're able to join us here in Therapy Talk. And thanks again for agreeing to do this interview with me. So why don't we start by asking you to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
So I am currently studying in Switzerland. I'm in my last semester of my undergraduate degree, getting a Bachelor of Arts in Visual Communication Arts and Environmental Science here in Switzerland. And I'm originally from Maine in the United States.
Okay.
And I'm 21 currently, and I'm getting ready to embark on the next step of my life as I'm in my last semester, kind of just see where the world takes me.
Thanks for sharing that. So
Yeah.
I know we've talked to each other a little bit before as we were trying to get to know each other, and you mentioned to me that you did struggle with your mental health. So how did this begin? So tell us a little bit more about your mental health journey.
Well, my parents would both describe me as a worrier from pretty much birth. I've been a very anxious person since birth, but I don't think my parents really knew that it was anxiety from a young age
Okay.
because nobody in our family has like a history of anxiety or was a worrier so much as I was. Even as a little kid, I was really like reserved and scared to do things. My parents always called me like a scaredy cat and a worrier. Um, but I don't really think they knew what it was, but they would just continuously try and push me out of my comfort zone. But it would
Mhm.
just take me a lot longer than it
Yeah.
would take everybody else. All of my friends, my brother, they just noticed that like I was more careful and I would have these like crying fits and pretty much panic attacks. But
Mhm.
again, it was seen as like over dramatic at the time.
Okay.
Oh, she's just over dramatic. Like, oh, something, the littlest thing goes wrong, it sets her off. Like, she's a crybaby. So I was known as that for like a lot of my childhood. It wasn't until I kind of got to be about, I think, 12
Hmm.
when the depression started
Okay.
that I actually got diagnosed with anxiety and
Okay.
learned what anxiety was
Okay.
and just got to learn about it because before then I was just like, oh, I'm sensitive, like I'm a worrier. And I didn't really know anything differently. I've pretty much had anxiety my whole life. My parents divorced when I was really young, when I was 6 years old.
Hmm.
And then my dad remarried to my stepmom. They're still together. And I got two step siblings.
Yeah. Do you from again from what you can remember? Was there a time that, maybe the anxiety wasn't so bad and it got worse? Did you have any kind of experience like that?
Mm, I mean, when I was little, I think after the divorce was really bad.
Okay.
Um, but I think that's pretty standard for a lot of kids, especially young kids who are going through their parents' divorce. Um, it's a really big change, especially in a young kid's life, going from having two parents around to just having one parent around.
I think you mentioned a very important point is that which was, divorce is a big change, and it's a big transition for a lot of families, especially with children. The
Yeah,
impact of divorce on children, especially young children, can be, profound. So it really depends on how specifically the parents handle the situation. You know, being able to talk with your kids about what's happening, you know, how people are around their children during this time. Because, divorce can be a long process, it can be short, but regardless, it's a big change for a lot of people, and especially for it affects everyone, especially for children.
it
Um,
was really rough. I remember that was the first time we ever went to therapy because my mom could tell that, like, I mean, she just wanted to make sure that I was okay. So
mhm.
my mom we went to kind of like family therapy and just
Okay.
kind of like talked about it.
How
And
old were
that
you
was kind
then?
of, that was, I think 7,
Okay.
the year after it was finalized.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of my first experience with like therapy and kind of talking my feelings out. Um, So I don't know. I feel like it was definitely really helpful, and she helped me kind of understand like where my parents were coming from.
Okay. Now you mentioned that when you were 12, you started feeling depressed. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
started at about 12. So when I was in 8th grade,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when I was in 8th grade, I kind of noticed that, so I just everything in me didn't feel right or normal.
Okay.
I started I couldn't sleep. I couldn't take care of myself. Like, I wasn't getting up. And even though I wasn't sleeping, I was just spending so much time in bed, like restless. And I had terrible, terrible thoughts of myself and just really low, like, self esteem. And of course, middle school is a really hard time just in general for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, maybe I'm just one of those angsty preteens who, is having a rough time in middle school. Um, but it continued. It didn't stop even when I got to high school. And
Yeah.
so when I was 13, I kind of noticed, and like my mom started noticing as well, like something was wrong.
Yeah.
Um, like I wouldn't eat, I wouldn't sleep. I could barely just like get out of bed. It was really hard. Like my mom would come to wake me up for school, and
Mm-hmm.
I would just look at her and I'd be so mean to her. And like I look back now and I'm like, I was so mean, but I just
Oh,
didn't. I was so mean. I'd literally tell her to like leave, like I hate you, like everything. But I now know that like it wasn't her that I hated, it was me, and the reminder that I wasn't a functioning human being really at that time.
yeah.
I wasn't my normal self, and I didn't know how else to express it. And so I unfortunately was pretty harsh to my mom during those years.
Looking back, was there something that happened in when you were 12 that may have,
I
triggered the depression?
I don't know if there was something particular that happened. I mean, in middle school, it was kind of a rough time.
Mhm.
I was bullied a little bit in school. And
Okay.
so I think that didn't help by any means because middle school girls were mean. Um, I also just, I was a very chubby child, and in 8th grade, it was like, you start to like, oh, like people start dating and things like that. And then you have school dances and people were asking other people to the dance and nobody
Mhm.
ever wanted to dance with me. So I just had a really
Aw.
low opinion of myself. Um, and I was just unhappy with who I was and what I looked like. And then having people at my school kind of say what I was feeling to my face
Mhm.
just kind of got to me.
I'm sorry to hear that you went through that. That's like I said, that's rough for I mean for anyone at any age
It's
to go through.
Yeah, it was really rough. I'd come home from school, I felt really lonely, like I didn't really have friends.
Mhm.
So I think that was a pretty alienating experience overall. It's just especially because at 12, it's like biologically you are just going through so many changes and your entire brain chemistry, I don't know, mine certainly wasn't right, but I wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And then high school came and, I thought things would get better. I went to a new school.
Mhm.
I started playing sports,
Okay.
lost some weight because I started playing some sports and dancing. So I felt a little bit better about myself and like my body image got better.
Okay.
And also, as high school, so there was a lot more people in my school. And so I didn't really have to interact with the people who were mean to me back in middle school. But I still couldn't eat. I still couldn't sleep. I still had really bad thoughts of myself. Um, I was still mean to my mom. I couldn't get out of bed most mornings. My attendance, like the attendance lady at my school, knew who I was
Mhm.
because I missed on average, I think 30 days of school a year. I
Wow.
missed about
Great.
a month a year.
And how did this affect your grades?
Surprisingly, the freshman year I did really well. Sophomore year, I had a bit of a hard time.
Okay.
Um, and then junior year and senior year, I did pretty well.
Okay.
Uh, but I don't know. I guess it's more of my ability to just make things up as I go along and like put on a brave face.
Mhm.
Because my mom has depression,
Okay.
and every female on my mom's side of the family has depression. And
Okay.
she was praying to God that it would not happen to me, because she's been there, she's felt that. It sucks. Um, but, she knew that if the day came that she had a daughter and her daughter had depression symptoms, that, she'd do her best because she knew what to do.
Mhm.
And so my mom did know what to do. And that's, I think, also why she's a little, I don't know, maybe let me have more mental health days than I think most parents probably would. She was more understanding if I was like, I can't do this today. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just not okay. I would sit home, I'd just like cry for hours and just, I don't know why. It's just like I couldn't stop crying.
Yeah.
And it hurt her so much to just see me like in that position.
Yeah.
And
And
so she suggested therapy,
okay.
started going to therapy sophomore year. Um, and that helped. It helped.
Is
Um,
this like a school counselor or like an outside therapist?
an outside therapist.
Okay.
At school, I kind of tried to pretend that I didn't, like, everyone just thought I was sick all the time.
Okay.
They're like, oh, she just gets sick really easily. And like, I wouldn't tell my friends what was happening. Like, none of my friends really, they're like, she just never answers her phone. Like, she's always like missing in action. She never hangs out with us. The truth was, I just sat in my bed crying and trying to feel something.
Yeah.
Because I think the main issue that I was feeling is that I wasn't feeling anything. I was numb
Yeah.
for months. I couldn't like I just couldn't feel anything. And I think that was the point where I was like, I need help.
Yeah.
Because almost not feeling anything is scarier than feeling too many
Hmm.
things.
Yeah, I hear that. Now, prior to you going to therapy, what did you think was going on with you? You know, the numb feeling, the crying, the not wanting to get up. Like, what did you think of that? And
I didn't
what was
really
going on?
know.
Okay.
I didn't really know, but also my school like didn't really educate us on mental health.
Okay.
And so I didn't really know what was going on.
Mhm.
I just knew that I felt this way, and this is what all consuming. It was like an all consuming feeling that I just couldn't get rid of. And no matter what I tried or like my mom would be like, "Oh, try this. Like, I think if you start meditating, like that might help you." I'd try meditation, but I just wasn't in the correct headspace for that. Or she'd be like, "You know what? Why don't you try hanging out with your friends more? Like, being around, good, positive people will help you."
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the end of the day, it wasn't working at the time.
Okay. This was before therapy.
Yep.
Okay.
And
So how?
so
Yeah.
we tried therapy because I think part of my issue is also like talking to my mom at the time too with what I was feeling,
Mm-hmm.
because I had suicidal thoughts, and trying to tell your mom
Mm-hmm.
that you think you're better off dead
Mm-hmm.
um, is possibly one of the worst things you could probably say to your parent.
Yeah. What
But
age
that's
did
how
you?
I felt.
At what age did you start having thoughts of suicide? Is it more like I don't want to be in this world, or was it like you were actually having plans of, what
I
to?
never really got, again, I'm a worrier, I'm anxious, and I'm a very sensitive person. So at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, I also have zero pain tolerance. So realistically, I could have never.
Okay.
But I, thought of like, oh, I'm better off dead. Like, nobody wants me here. Like, I'm just a waste of space. I'm useless. Like, my parents would be so much better off if I wasn't here. Like, they'd be so happy because I'm no longer causing them stress and anxiety and all of these stuff, just because I need so much extra attention and so much extra like support. And so I don't know. I couldn't really tell my mom about that because I didn't want to hurt her. And so when we got to therapy, I was kind of able to kind of just like actually say it out loud for the first time. Because I would write everything down. And I think I burned the journals, to be honest. But I
What do I
have,
burn? Like physically burn them? Or,
yeah, pretty
okay.
sure I threw them in a fire before I left for college because I was in a good place then and I didn't want to read my thoughts of where I was, because I wrote out my whole journey pretty much. I don't know. I think some may still be in my house, but I kind of just wrote because I would journal. I'd write every night because I just writing it kind of like took away its power almost. Like if I wrote it out, I wouldn't feel it as strongly. But like I'd write letters of how I was feeling, or like, oh God, the amount of times I wrote like, again, it sounds terrible, but like I wrote to my mom like, "I'm dead, I'm sorry," like kind of notes almost. It sounds awful, and like I think about it sometimes and it's just like I can't believe I was that gone. I was 13. I was 14. Like it was like 13 to 15 were probably my worst years. Um and then, I got on medication when I was about 16. I've been on medication ever since. And I went to therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually like think once I hit 15, I looked at my mom and I was like, you know what? I'm ready to fight. I don't want to feel this way anymore. I wanted to feel something because at that point it'd been like numb and sad for about 2 years straight. Almost nothing I did would make me feel better. Dancing was like the one thing that always made me feel better. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd like throw myself into my dance class at school. And like, I don't think my dance teacher ever knew how much she helped me just by letting me like stay after school in the studio. But like, I just threw myself into dance because you could just dance until your body hurt, until you're sore, like, and just really let your body feel your emotions and just kind of let it out.
I always say to my clients, one of the best ways to manage depression or even anxiety is to do things that you enjoy, do things that you find enjoyable and pleasure, something that's your passion or interest, and combine that with something that's physical, like a physical activity, like dancing. You're having fun,
Oh,
you're moving, your blood is flowing, your neurons are, popping and all that. It's definitely very helpful. And I'm happy to hear that it was very helpful for you. So I know you mentioned earlier that at some point you said, I'm ready to fight. What did you mean by that?
I actually got to the point where I enjoyed my dance classes so much that I had started making like good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I started actually wanting to go out and do things again. And I think I'd been going to therapy every week and I'd been doing, these things that she would try and help me with. Just kind of work on like meditation, things like that. I really tried. I was taking melatonin to help me sleep at night. Um, and that really helped for a long time. I was on melatonin for years. Um, just because I can't like even now I can't fall asleep easily. I have really bad insomnia, but it's also just because the anxiety in my head just continuously it's on a loop constantly. I constantly have like, oh, I got to do this tomorrow. I got to do this tomorrow. Like, oh, I didn't do this. Why didn't you do that? Like timing, planning. My head constantly sounds like that. And so having music or like mindfulness activities has been really helpful in my life to just kind of drown that out so I focus on something else. And so I started noticing that little things like that helped me. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I like kind of where my life is going. Like, I have friends, I have my dance family. Um, I started to just feel better a little bit with the therapy and just kind of the help. I felt more positive about kind of, I don't know, beating it, that I wanted to just kind of get over my depression, but also, how does one even get over depression? Like that thought just like terrified me because I mean, how does one even do that? So I started taking medication, and that really helped, honestly, because I didn't know, again, I wasn't really educated as a kid on mental health or mental illnesses. And so I didn't know that it was my brain chemistry. Like I just didn't have correct levels of norepinephrine and serotonin in my system, in my brain. And that's okay. It happens to a lot of us and to a lot of people, but I didn't know that there was things out there that could kind of help me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
I was terrified of taking medication because I thought it was going to make me feel like a zombie or
Mm-hmm.
actually make me feel too many things.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a valid
and I,
fear, valid concern. I hear this a lot from my current clients, from friends, family members. And that's a valid fear and concern about medication. That's why being well informed is key. Now, I'm curious, what medications are you on now?
So I've actually stayed on the same one that I started on,
Okay.
Prozac, just
Prozac. Okay.
generic Prozac.
Okay.
So I think it's fluoxetine.
Mm-hmm.
And I've played with the dosage amounts for years now.
Mm-hmm.
I started really low, like on a really low dosage, because again, we wanted to see like how it would affect my system and how I kind of felt.
Yeah.
Um, and it's worked for me. It's worked for me for a while. I know for a lot of people, the first one doesn't always work
Mm-hmm.
for them. And I was kind of also terrified of that because, again, I have really bad anxiety. So I was really scared that the first one wasn't going to work for me and that it would put me off medication.
Okay.
And I'm really, really happy that I got, you know, a good person to like a good psychiatrist to just kind of help me and guide me through it. And also
Mm-hmm.
reassure me that if this one wasn't going to work, that one was going to work for me.
Okay. And
And just kind of educated me more.
are you still in therapy?
I haven't been in therapy in a couple years now. I think since I moved here,
Okay.
really, I haven't been in therapy. But I got to the point, I think my senior year in high school, that I had been doing therapy for about 4 years at that point, where she looked at me and she said, Nicole, I don't think you need me anymore. And getting to that point in therapy,
Mm-hmm.
I had never felt more proud of myself, I think, than in that moment. Like getting into college was super, like, I was super proud of myself, super great. But like having a therapist tell me that, look, I think this is all I can do for you at this point in time. You are in a good place mentally
Mm-hmm.
and doing good in your life. I think that was the most reassuring and positive thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Oh, wow, that's amazing to get to that point where you can acknowledge to yourself that, wow,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of good work, that I don't need therapy, that I can do this now on my own.
Well, I was terrified when she said it at first because I was like, what do you
Oh,
mean? No, I
I'm
need
sure.
therapy.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was like,
sure.
no, I need therapy. I was like, I'm not okay. And she's like, Nicole, you did it. And it was just like having some, like, she called my mom in as well. And she told my mom that too. And like, I was shocked because
Mhm.
at that point, I was like, things were going really well in my life. I had gotten into college. I'd gotten into my dream school here in Switzerland.
Mhm.
I'd gotten a really good scholarship as well. You know, my family was doing good. Everyone was doing good, and I actually liked where my life was heading.
Yeah.
And I was just really happy with where I've ended up.
Yeah.
Um, and that her just kind of telling me that like I made it just like really reaffirmed that for me because I'd come a long way.
How are you now?
I'm good now. Honestly, I mean, I have my bad days. I think everyone has their bad days, but depression and anxiety are something I'll have for the rest of my life. And something that, I've now kind of learned how to cope with and kind of how to manage them a bit more. There are always situations or times when I just, they just throw you into those places. They throw you into the depths. They throw you into your pit of anxiety. I still have panic attacks every now and then. Um, but when I do now, I call my mom and she kind of talks me through them. And having, my mom kind of go through like, because when I got my diagnosis for depression, because my mom kind of recognized the depression symptoms in me, together we kind of learned about anxiety and how to deal with my anxiety, because my mom had no experience in that field. And so it was kind of like a learning experience for the both of us.
Mhm.
And now, I have so many tools and resources. I always have my therapist number to call her if I do
Okay.
want. I have a school
Mhm.
counselor here,
Okay.
who I have seen on occasion. We're allowed, I think, 5 free visits a
Okay.
semester. So I sometimes like I'm really homesick and I get really in that place where I'm just not doing too well mentally. And
Mhm.
if, some things are hard or something goes wrong back home and I can't be there. And I need to talk it out. And it's just really nice to be able to have those resources and have those people.
Mhm.
But also, I just, I've learned, especially through coming here and like being on my own, to just kind of like find who I am as a person. And I'm in a very good place with myself. And like, I know myself. I've traveled alone, I've done solo
Amazing.
trips. It's been crazy. I never thought I'd ever get to the point where I could eat at a restaurant by myself without like being terrified of what people thought of me,
Mhm.
or just go out alone by myself. I spent 4 days in Paris by myself.
Oh, it's amazing.
Um,
Paris, a lovely city. To do it on your own.
I did it on
That's
my own,
I mean,
and I'm still
hats off to
here.
you.
I survived.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Good for
And
you.
I've been on so many amazing adventures since then, and I'm at just a really good place right now mentally where I'm just I know who I am, and
That's
that's
great.
something that I was very happy to find because I was struggling for so long.
Mhm.
And I still have bad days.
We all do. That's
We
okay.
all do. We still have bad days.
Yeah.
But I take my medication. Then I do a lot of mindfulness activities, and I just try and take care of myself.
What's your message for a lot of people that, will, view this video and for anyone? What is your message to them about mental health, about what you're going through? What would you like to say to them?
There's a lot of things, honestly. I think the first thing, like, and the most important thing is you're not alone. And
Yeah.
I think that's the number one thing I felt just with every fiber of my being, that I was on my own. I was the only person who was feeling this way.
Hmm.
And I was so wrong. I was so wrong, but it, it's what my depression was telling me and my anxiety was telling me, was that I was alone. But you're not alone. There's a lot of us out here who have been there, who have done that. We've experienced the same thing, and we're still fighting. We're here today. There's people who are 70 who have gone through this. There are even famous celebrities who go through this. It
Hmm.
happens to so many people. You're not alone. And I think recognizing that and being able to ask for help is kind of step number one. Don't be afraid to ask for help. What you're feeling is valid, and you are valid, whatever you're going through.
Hmm.
And just being able to talk about it with somebody that you trust, whether it be a friend or a family member, I highly recommend therapy. I know therapy sometimes gets a bad rep and people are scared to talk to therapists, but they know what they're talking about, they know what they're doing. And you also might get to the point where your therapist looks at you and tells you you've done it. And you're going to feel so good about yourself. But also be patient with yourself. It took
Yep.
me years. It took me years. My journey is going to be different from your journey. Your journey is going to be different from your friend's journey. Everyone's journey is going to be different. It's going to take you different times, but it's okay if it takes you 6 months. It's okay if it takes you 6 years. It's honestly, it took me about 4 years to get to a decent place.
Hmm.
And then, you have periods where you go back in that spot. I had one of those for about 6 months where I was really just not in a good spot. Um, and then, it's been about a year and I'm good again. I'm in a
Yeah.
good place again.
I mean,
It's going to
it's
have ups and downs.
definitely, definitely. And as I've said earlier, I am so happy and proud of the journey because you're still in that journey. The journey hasn't stopped,
Uh-huh.
right?
I don't think it'll stop for a while, and that's okay.
But you're trudging along. You're moving along. And you're right. There are ups and downs. There will always be ups and downs. But as long as you have the resources to
Even just
support.
normal life.
Yeah, for sure. That is so true. And I think that these are all wonderful messages for everyone. And, as a therapist, these are also the messages that I'd like to share with everyone as well. So I'm very glad that you've been able to speak to all of these, during our time together. Nikki, I am very, very happy and honored to have had you here today in Therapy Talk. And thank you so much for sharing your story. I really admire your bravery, your patience, your strength. And again, as I said, I'm very proud of everything you've accomplished. So, and thank you for being a part of this today.
Thank you so much. And just thank you for having this in general. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for just people to tell their stories, and just creating a platform where people are able to do that is really amazing.
Thank you. And it's my goal has always been to have this platform, to have individuals like you share your story, because there is power to sharing, there's power to talking, and I'm glad that you've had the chance. And I really hope that having these kinds of platforms can help remove that stigma on mental health. And your story is definitely a powerful way of doing that. So once again, thanks so much for sharing your story and for joining us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Once again, a big thanks to Nikki for taking the time and sharing her mental health journey with all of us. I hope that you all learned a lot from her story. I definitely did. And Nikki, thanks so much again. Good luck to the rest of the semester and the rest of your time in Switzerland. You are doing great. I know you're going to do very well. And again, good luck. And if you or anyone who may be interested in being featured in my channel and share your mental health journey, let me know. Leave me some comments down below. You can also email me at lloyd@blueharborpsychotherapy.com. And for anyone else, if you have any questions, any feedback, please put them down in the comments section, or you can also email me, or you can also check out our website, blueharborpsychotherapy.com. And again, reminder, please make sure to subscribe to my channel, give this video a big like, and feel free to share this video to your friends and family. I'm sure all of us can learn a lot from Nikki's story. So that's it for today's episode. Thanks so much for watching. And as I always say at the end of my videos, I want to wish all of you to have a happy mental health day. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.